So just to be on the safe side, I'm preparing myself for a slightly longer bear market just because the Fed's not bailing us out. Now, if the Fed came out and started lowering interest rates next week or whenever, then I think, all right, now it's bull on again in Bitcoin. Yeah, no, me too. I think, again, I think honestly, one of the reasons why Bitcoin's gotten so quiet recently, and it's been really quiet, is that I think the market is expecting we're going to get some more framework on regulation. So you're not seeing big buyers come in, but at the same time, the sellers have been exhausted, at least for now. And so people are just waiting. When are we going to hear more information? And by the way, one thing I've said is that I think that when we do get that framework and the SEC releases the framework on the rules, and again, Bitcoin probably a commodity, most other things a security, but that's fine. But the question I have is, are there new rules for crypto securities that are different from stock securities like Apple or Microsoft? And I think that's what we're going to have to see. But I do think that once that happens, you do see a relief and a move up in crypto at that point. And in all fairness, to be honest, I view it the same way as like the marijuana industry, right? So you have these older generations that were all about in the 80s. It was like the war on drugs, and like marijuana is a gateway drug and it leads to all this other, it's horrible. And then like I lived in Oregon for a while, where it was totally legal. You could buy recreational, and there was no difference. Like there was nothing. I tried it on occasion, and whatever, but like it's not addicting in my opinion. And like there's certain people that are going to do it more, certain less, and then certain none, but it didn't increase anything negatively in my opinion. I didn't feel less safe walking down the street, for instance, just because people could buy this in a store, right? So I think the same thing where you have these older generations that are kind of like scared of these things, same thing, and don't understand it fully with the marijuana industry. And then the same thing now with crypto, you have these older generations again that are like, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like it could be a threat to the system, so let's be against it. And it's like, learn about it already. I do think that's like, I think that is the key, is to embrace it and then find out all the good that it can do in the world. And again, I don't know necessarily the different avenues, but God knows there's a lot of ways that blockchain technology can be applied to make things better and safer, really, probably. Yeah. So I do think, I think I've been impressed because the equity markets, the stock market has been heading generally down, and Bitcoin's really been going sideways. So it's showing us glimpses of what it could be. Yeah. I do worry that it's not quite mature enough yet to fully kind of disconnect from the risk asset style that it's been kind of caught in. But there's no doubt that it's showing us glimpses of what it can do. And that's great. And again, we just have to remember that, like, you're 16, right? So I guess Bitcoin would be the equivalent of a 13-year-old. Yes. So your 13-year-old can show signs of maturity, but at the same time, they're still going to be immature because they're a 13-year-old sometimes too. So you're seeing that kind of mid-level where sometimes it's doing the right thing, sometimes it's still kind of crazy. So I want to show you a chart. And by the way, my screens don't like what I'm saying, so they just shut off.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I know. So usually I can set something so it doesn't happen, but that's okay. But the bottom line is this computer's on, and this is the important one I'm talking to you on.
Yeah, let's get it.
So let's look at the charts, and I want to show you, and this is my one concern about like where we could be if we go back to the 2017 highs, right? So this is where we are in crypto, and it's really, like you said, I mean, like so sideways and just consolidating. Number one, we have this beautiful, what we call a wedge pattern. So at least in the short term, if we can break above, I think you have a shot to maybe get up to about 25,000. So that's kind of cool if we can get the breakout, but please note it hasn't happened yet. You're literally stuck in this tiny little triangle niche, and we need to see that breakout occur. But going back to what you were saying about like where we could be in the cycle and how it's just getting so quiet, look at what happened back in the previous cycle of 2017. And this is my only concern. So basically we had that big fall down here from here's your 2017 high, lots of chop on the way down. And then look at what happened here. It just goes to sleep and then sleep. And look at how tight it got. And then all of a sudden,
it fell off the bed.
That's my only fear, right, is that we're doing that kind of period, and then if it does start to break, it's going to be a big break, and then but the positive is, all right, let's always look at the positives here.
Okay.
The positive is that was the final flush before the bottom. So even if this is what we're doing right here, at least if it dips, I'm a buyer. Heck yeah, I'm a buyer, because at that point, then if we zoom out, look at what ends up happening, right? It bottoms out, curls up, and then this was just the beginning of the bigger bull run that eventually led us up to the current, double top high here. So it's a tricky one, right? I mean, it's like you look at these past charts and we know human behavior occurs or repeats over and over again, but you hope it's different this time. So we'll just have to see. Me too. And I mean, let's be fair, right? This is the first bear market for Bitcoin with no Fed printing of money. So I think we just have to be aware that like a lot of people are saying, okay, well, we should bottom here soon and start moving up, because past cycles generally lasted about 12 months before they bottomed out, right? Well, the problem is that all those past cycles, there was money printing that helped us kind of push it up. So just to be on the safe side, I'm preparing myself for a slightly longer bear market, just because the Fed's not bailing us out. Now, if the Fed came out and started lowering interest rates next week or whenever, then I think, all right, now it's bull on again in Bitcoin. But we just have to see with the Fed here, because it's kind of the first time this is happening. Yeah, and I agree. It's by no means are we at a bottom yet, because the one thing I remember clearly from 2018, after we talked in 2017, is when we did hit the bottom, people were like, there were a lot of people that were giving up on Bitcoin at that point, and we haven't seen that yet. So it does make me think there's that one final flush where finally you'll get to see that, which is a kind of that mentality. Now, in the short term, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we did see a short-term relief rally, and if we could just break above this line, we would get it. I mean, I think you'd get a little short squeeze even above it. But again, even if we pop up, then I still, for me, it's still telling me further downside, which again, I hate to say, I hate to be that person, but also the charts are what I follow, and it still doesn't look like we've fully bottomed out yet. But as I said, buying opportunity, like you want it, and by the way, can I just say something here quick?
Yeah.
So last year, Bitcoin was like 65, 69,000. I come out and I'm like, hi guys, charts are saying we're going to 20. Like, uh-oh, just beware. Oh, you're crazy, Gareth. You're smoking that too much of that stuff, whatever they said. And then people were like on Twitter, they're like, you know what, if Bitcoin gets to 20 again, oh my God, I'm going to sell my kidney to buy Bitcoin, right? Well, here we are at 20, and I don't see anyone selling their kidney. It does, like more so at highs and lows. So for instance, making higher highs on lower volume is a concern, because when you have lower volume but you're making higher highs, like we saw in October, November from the April, May highs, that tells you that big money is not buying in heavily, right? So generally we want to follow the bigger money, the whales, and because they're the ones that have the ability to get the research, that know, they're kind of the smarter money. And so that's a good indicator. That was showing us in October, November to be very, very careful. And then also at lows, when you see big flushes on heavy volume, you're usually flushing out a lot of the weaker hands, and if you get a bottoming tail, what's called a bottoming tail, it tells you that there's big money buying all that up, and that's why the price is bouncing back. So there are signals with volume that you do pay attention to. Yeah, so I think the big things like support resistance lines. So for instance, it's amazing to look at the charts and just see how levels kind of play out over and over again. So you can connect, I mean, literally you can connect this high to this high, and it gave you the exact high here, the high here, and then right here. Wow. And one of the things I know from trading for 20 years is that the more you hammer on a trend line, the weaker it becomes. So the more you hammer on this upside line, it's essentially like a door that you're hammering on. Let's say you got to break through that door. Your kitty's inside, the house is on fire, and the door is locked. You bang that door as hard as you can. Probably first, second, third time, you're not breaking it down. But if you hit it enough, you will break it down. And so that's why I'm keeping an eye. The more hits we get on this upper trend line, if we can pop out, then that would be bullish. The problem is, same thing works on the downside line here, which would be a breakdown. So if we start hammering on this lower line, that would be problematic. But just looking at some of these other trend lines, I want to just show you this here. Yes. Like, look at this trend line here, right? So you can see you broke below this line and then you retraced into it, you kissed it, you retraced, and then that was the beginning of the next move down. You could also look at this low here, and then look at how price fell right into it and then sideways until it broke. So it's giving you, the charts are amazing like that. They give you levels to be aware of. They don't necessarily tell you, will it hold above this level for a long time or not? But usually you can get a trade in here at these levels. So yeah, and again, just think about where we bottomed out here, right around 20,000, which we all know was the 2017 high. And there's that line right there. So I'm a big believer in trend lines. You can see I don't have a lot of wacky signals on my chart like a lot of people do. Yeah. I just draw my own stuff and just read the charts. Let's get rid of these trend lines here. And let's go to when I look towards the distant future, I want to go to either the monthly chart or the weekly chart. The bigger time frames give you the bigger moves over time, right? So the daily chart, which we're on right now, tells me shorter term, like over the next month, where's Bitcoin likely going to go? But we can flip over to the weekly chart and then we get a much bigger picture. And so for me, what I start to notice, number one, if Bitcoin's going to dump out, I'm looking at this as maybe my low pivot. And notice how you go all the way back to the lows before the first bull rally in 2017, and it connects right to this low here, which then connects to this low. So by thinking about that, if we did dump out, where would I be a buyer of Bitcoin? Right at that level. So right away, it gives you an idea about, okay, well, now I know where, if we get there, we should see some sort of bounce, because every time we've hit that line, we've had some sort of bigger move up. So it kind of starts to give you that insight about, well, where should I buy? On the other side, if we look at the upside, I mean, this is a little trickier because of this crazy move. Yeah. But I mean, what about like using a trend line like this, where it's like a megaphone pattern, where if Bitcoin starts its next bull rally, could it potentially go all the way up to that line, which would be pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, that's like, what?
I mean, that would be 100. I'm guessing right now it's close to 100,000, you would think. So, wow. And again, trading and using charts doesn't give you exact answers. I want to make that clear, because a lot of people are like, oh, the chart didn't work this one time, charts suck. In reality, charts give you probabilities. And so even if you have like a 70% chance that something's going to work out, it still leaves 30% chance that it's going to fail, or 3 times out of every 10. So the goal of charting is to basically become the casino versus the gambler. Yes, the casino, someone comes in, they win money from the casino, but out of 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, the casino's always going to win. That is insane. And in all fairness, you'll have on the way up, you'll have resistance at double top up here. But I mean, again, think about that, right? Think about buying at, let's say, 10,000, and then this thing, I mean, 10x's to 100,000 in the next bull run. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's, wow. Everyone would be driving Lambos. Everybody would be tweeting laser eyes on Twitter. This would be
we say that, but then just like the people that said they'd sell their kidney, the problem is going to be is that people that are in Bitcoin now, and this is what's so unique about trading, is that if Bitcoin goes below 10,000, a lot of those same people will panic and then say, oh my God, I got to exit. And then only the strong, the people that are like 100% in no matter what, will be the ones that end up making money on the next bull run, because everyone else will wait and say, oh my goodness, I'm too scared to get involved. And that's the way markets work. You can go to commodities, you can go to stocks. The markets will push you to your limit. Like, they will push you to your emotional limit to get you to do the wrong thing. And then as soon as you do the wrong thing, it goes the opposite way, the way you were hoping it would go. Exactly. And I think the biggest thing too is, and I always, want to say this, and I'm sure you do too, is like, you never invest all your money in anything, because you just don't know, right? And I've learned that the hard way in my early career, making stupid investments where I put way too much money and it cost me, most of that money. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, and I'm going to continue to buy Bitcoin when it dips, but I'm not going to put 100% of my assets in Bitcoin. I'll still spread it around, diversify, just in case something really disastrous happens.
Yeah, even, Matt in the chat said, as long as you're using risk capital and not your rent, you should be okay.
Yes, exactly. As long as that's what, and by the way, this quick story, I was early on in my trading career, and I started my trading career with $10,000. After a few years, I was good enough to kind of have a good run, and I built it up to 100,000. And then one day I was day trading, and I threw money in a stock that was collapsing, thinking it would bounce. It didn't bounce. I put more money in. It didn't bounce. I put more and more and more. End of day, I lost 70,000 of that $100,000, and I was in a daze. I mean, that was like the most ridiculous smack in the face. But what I did was I stood up and I rationalized everything, and I said, do I still have a house over my head? Yes. Can I still feed myself? Yes. Do I still have my health? Yes. Those are the three most important things. And then I said, you know what? I'll come back from this. I'll come back. I'm going to learn from my error here and not never do that again. And I did. And the key is, do you have those three things? And then it's okay, right? Because it definitely stings. And the kicker is too, is like you look back and you say to yourself, I should have known better. You know, I should have known better, but we get caught in these emotional things, and we have to just continue to drill ourselves. And this is why investing and trading is really you need an education on it, not only to learn the charts like I do, but also control your emotions, right? You know, and you ask my wife, like the craziest thing about it is like, she'll be like, sometimes she'll get all upset about something, and I'll just be like, listen, it is what it is. Let's move on. Well, that's my trading. Because when I do take losses, and I take losses today, you just got to let them go right away. And it's just a bad trade. Now move on so you can get a good trade in there. And so it kind of goes into your other life too when you get very disciplined about emotional control and stuff like that. You know? And I think that's the key is like, you know, everyone's going to make errors. And I want that to be clear is like, I didn't get to where I am now by somehow being this genius trader. I went through all the hard knocks that I could go through, but it's just a matter of sticking with it and then learning from your mistakes and trying not to make them again. And eventually you get to be a profitable trader. And I've made more money in my career now by buying small positions on many different things than by trying to hit home runs on one particular altcoin, for instance. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is like, number one is you have to make sure that you have multiple signals. So you have to learn, number one, learn like the signals that a chart is telling you, because charts are always talking to you. It's just a matter of, can you learn the language that they're speaking? Once you do, it becomes clear. But a lot of people run into the issue of like this Bitcoin market, right? You'll see this little uptick in Bitcoin. Let's say we do break out. Let's say we go to 25. And they'll start getting that FOMO and being like, oh my God, this is the new bull run. They jump in, not recognizing that the bigger pattern here is actually a bear flag, right? And this is what everyone should be aware of, is that I had that little channel drawn in before, but really what you're doing here is this is a down move with sideways consolidation. Now you could go up to this high, which is 25. We talked about that earlier, but it's still in a bear flag formation. So you can't FOMO in when it gets to 25, when it's going right into resistance. And then I think the next move, at least probabilities tell us the next move would be down.